We have the hardware, but how do we make it move? Today, we're talking about this quad motor beast and giving it a brain. We're going to implement speed control with PID, tackle inverse kinematics for the omnidirectional movement using these wheels, and tie it all together with ROS2 Twist messages and a DualShock 4. Let's get the thing driving. Hi, I'm John, your concierge to the world of the Raspberry Pi Pico, embedded tech and robotics. If you want to master the Pico and apply it to real-world robotics, then you're in the right place. Okay, so first the proof. I'm driving this using my controller here and a Raspberry Pi 5, which is sending twist messages over to the micro ROS on my RP2040 controller board. The code instantly translates a move left into the specific vector for all four wheels. Now, Mecanum wheels love to drift on slippery floors, so I've had to write some aggressive braking code to snap it to a halt. It's surprisingly responsive. We'll show you that. So I'm going to cover quite a lot of ground in this video. So first of all, I need to actually do a bit of testing around the speed of the rotation of these motors, because I didn't check that before, and it's critical that we're actually reading the right speed. And I don't entirely know what the gears are on these devices, so I need to just make sure I've got it right. So we'll do that first with a tachometer. Then we can get really into PID control, so controlling the speed. So I can ask each wheel to travel at a particular revolutions in radians per second. Then it's the inverse kinematics. So instead of controlling the wheels individually, but how do we think about controlling the motor as a whole, and ask it to go forward, backwards, sideways, or rotate. And finally, we want to get into the world of ROS2 and micro ROS, so we can actually connect it to some messages from my ROS2 ecosystem. So previously, when I would have looked at my quad controller board, I was able to drive all of the four motors on this model and we could actually read back some data from them. And I was reading that back using these encoders that are on the motors. So each of the motors has a magnetic encoder, or two magnetic encoders, which read back the values of the rotations. And these motors actually rotate or give 11 signals per rotation of the motor shaft, and then there's a 60-to-1 gearbox. Well, that was my theory, but actually I needed to check it. The way I'm going to check it is I'm actually going to just stick a magnet onto the side of the wheel, and then I'm going to use a Hall sensor that I've looked before at on the channel to actually detect the rotation speed of that motor. Now that, plus then using a nice waveshare screen there, the 0.96 RP2350 LCD 0.96, that's ideal for me to actually then visualize what the rotation speed is of that motor. And that's why I can actually check to see if my code actually works. So there's the board. I haven't put it on a PCB or anything, it's just sitting on a breadboard, but it's going to work perfectly. So I'm just holding this Hall sensor against the wheel with that magnet stuck on there with a bit of electrical tape, and we're able to read the speed. So I've got here the time it takes for a rotation, the revolutions in radians per second, and rotations per minute. All basically just to validate that my code is correct. You can find my code for my home-built tachometer here if you want to see it. So PID, proportional integral derivative, basically control. What we're going to use in order to set the speed on a wheel and have the code actually maintain current to that wheel to achieve that speed. And I've looked at PID control before, so you can see my DDD video on PID control, which talks about it in a lot of detail. Go check that out. The one thing I'm going to do differently on this one from what I'm going to do on that one was then I implemented PID myself. This time I wanted to use someone else's code, this wonderful auto-tune PID library here, because it's got the auto-tune algorithms which I hadn't implemented, and a variety of them to choose from, which is really cool. So we can auto-tune my PID configuration, the P, I and D constants, without actually having to do a whole load of experiments to actually work out what they are. So that's really quite useful. I wanted to make use of that. So my code here is in my quad motor controller project, and you can find the PID code there. So in this PID example, I'm going to trivially port that nice auto-tune PID library. So I've got a auto-tune PID include here, and I've put a port folder because this is an Arduino library, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of fudging to get this to work. So this trivial port I've actually had to move away from, but in the actual robot code, but it worked for my experiments here. So what I was basically doing is making sure that, you know, definitions like pi were available to the code, that the functions constrain and map and minis were available, and that was enough to actually get this example up and running. And I've had to actually write the code there for map and minis. So and these are just standard Arduino functions that we need over on the Pico ecosystem in order to get this to compile. But really what I want to show you is to talk about actually how we're using this. So from last time we had with my motor controller, we had this motor class available to us, so I could set this up to find where all of the connected GPIOs are, and then I could get back some speed data from the motor, and I could settle its throttle speed. So all good, all exactly what I need. Now I need to take that a little step further in order to create a PID driven motor. So this will now give me the ability to set the speed in radians per second that I want the motor to drive at, and then as long as I keep calling this function do PID, it should actually continue to actually drive at that speed. Now to get it to do that, we are going to need some parameters. We will need to configure the constants for PID, the P, I and D, and we can do that actually either by configuring them directly, or I can cause it to tune them by just issuing the command tune. So if we have a look at the main code here, so I've got a little example here as I'm going to use it. So I'm going to set up my motor auto PID here, motor, and I'm going to give it all of its GPIOs for the 4 motors. And then I'm going to basically set all their throttles to 0 and make sure that we're going to just do some test driving of our motor basically, and that's all that this is doing. So running speed through, running the do PID, checking what the speeds are of those motors, and checking also if there are faults. So I also added some fault capability to detect if a motor had gone faulty. So if it is not responding after a second or so, then we consider that that motor is dead and we will turn it off. So inverse kinematics. Basically, how do we stop worrying about the individual wheels and actually start controlling the robot as a single entity? And that generally means mass. But fear not, because our friends over at Ecamm eRobots have actually written all of that mass for us. And here it is. So these formulas tell us the rotation speed in radians per second we need to set for each of the 4 motors for a Mecanum drive robot. Great! So that's actually easy. All we need to do is implement that in the code. So when we're looking at PID, we're looking at control of each of the motors individually. But when we start looking at this twist, we actually need to look at the droid itself. So I have a function here on my, well, I have a droid here which has got 4 motors on it, and I have the ability to twist to give that acceleration data around the meters per second on the X and Y axis, and rotation in radians per second on the float axis. So I can set that twist and the motor should go off and do it. So if I have a look at our droid function and we have a look at this twist, So Twist itself is actually going to just drop a request to do a twist onto a queue, because the droid itself is going to be an active object in my code here running under FreeRTOS. So I'm just going to basically drop all the parameters in the queue. When I pull them out, then I'm going to actually run the twist calculation. And here you see all of that wonderful calculation that we saw on that web page. Well, actually, I've just implemented it all and copied it out into this function, and that's it. And that gives me then the speed in radians per second for each of the 4 motors. And that was it. It was really very easy to do. And then there's some other code in here which actually is going to actually implement that on the motors and translate it onto the motors, but that's trivial stuff. This is a real calculation I wanted to show you. Before we roll into the ROS2 control stack for this Mecanum drive robot, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, WolfSSL. When you're building a robot that talks to each other or to the cloud, security matters just as much as motor control. WolfSSL provides a lightweight, high-performance TLS and crypto library designed specifically for embedded systems. That means it runs beautifully on tiny boards like the RP2040 without eating up your CPU cycles or blowing your memory budget. WolfSSL gives you modern and standard compliant security that actually fits on a microcontroller. It's fast, it's efficient, and it's built for exactly the kind of robotic projects we love. Check out WolfSSL using the link below, and thanks WolfSSL for supporting the channel. Now let's get back to robot moving sideways. So I'm going to turn ROS2 on our microcontroller in the sense of micro ROS, and using the same approach I've used to micro ROS in my other videos. So we need to then process this twist message, and twist messages give us both linear and angular acceleration data. So, you know, what do we want as X, Y, and Z for linear motion, and rotation in X, Y, and Z as well. Now, of course, for this robot, we will be able to go forwards and backwards, i.e. linear X. We're also going to be able to go sideways, which is linear Y. That's new. Raspberry Pi certainly couldn't do that, and neither could DDD. And then we've got angular motion, where we can just rotate around the Z-axis for the yaw motion. So we can set this up in my code to be able to process these twist messages. Now, my approach to doing the micro ROS code in order to actually accept this twist message is exactly the same as I did with Raspberry Pi and with DDD, my previous droids, and indeed with the other robots I've built. So it won't surprise you that I've got a class here called Droid Entities, which is an agent and is part of this micro ROS entities, and it's that is basically going to be handling all of these requests and doing something about it. So if we have a look in here, we will see that I'm actually setting up a twist message. So here I'm actually setting up a publisher, which is going to publish the joint position so that we can see where the motors are and what they're up to. And we're subscribing to this twist message. And then we're going to have the handlers for that are going to be in here as well. So when we receive a twist message, we can actually do some work. We can copy out the linear acceleration on X and Y and the angular acceleration, and we can pass those over to our droid and ask it to go off and do the stuff. So to demonstrate this code, I'm going to need to do some work. So what I'm really demonstrating here is how my microcontroller board, that motor board, is actually running all of this micro ROS code and is able to actually respond to twist messages. And those twist messages I'm going to send over from a Raspberry Pi 5, which is running all of the ROS operating system under Ubuntu. And I'm going to connect a DualShock 4 to that over Bluetooth. Now, I've done all of that before, and there are other videos talking about how all of that gets together. And then the library I'm going to use to actually drive it, so go between that DualShock 4 messages and actually a twist message going to my controller board, that's going to be our ROS2's drive. So okay, let's go for a drive. And of course we can go forwards and backwards. We've got that linear motion. And we can rotate nicely on the spot. So that rotation around Z is working very, very nicely. But of course the real trick about this robot is that we can also do this wonderful thing of go sideways. Wow, and it really is quite the crab as it moves, and it's nicely under control. So we can start drawing round and going around squares and doing all of that sort of motion with the droid. So braking. One of the things I've learned with this robot is that these wheels really don't want to stop. So as we run them up and then cut power, you will see that the motors continue to rotate quite a bit. So to fix this overrun, I'm going to have some active braking capability. And I can actually turn this off in the code, which is what I've done in order to show you how bad it can be without it. But basically what I'm going to do is work out what direction each of the wheels are going, because I'm going to power them in the reverse direction. And I'm going to power them in the reverse direction over 5 cycles, constantly reducing the throttle by 0.8 just to get us down to a slower speed. And that seems to stop it really, really nicely, and then we can actually turn off power. And that's basically my simplistic active braking algorithm, but look how well this works. So I've synchronized the braking point across these two videos, and we've got the active braking on the top there, and as I hit brake, yes, it stops absolutely instantly. Now, I've been warned that these Mecanum drive robots are notorious for drifting. But as you can see, the Inverse Kinematics and PID loop seem to keep this surprisingly well locked in. That said, for perfect precision, this next step will be to add an IMU for odometry. So make sure you subscribe and don't miss that. If you missed how I built this custom motor controller board from scratch, then click this video right here, or check out the Rexby 1 playlist below.